You don't want to have your job replaced by a kiosk at McDonald's, you better learn to code. And it's about grandmas using their walkers like Sandman in the ECW arena, smashing motherfuckers with a kendo stick. Swine flu just killed all the pigs! Okay. This is the theme song, by the way. I think we'll use this for a bit. Pearlmania, 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 Pearlmania 500. The irony that I'm about to talk about longshoremen and their unionized fight against automation while not cursing like a longshoreman, because this website's automated moderators will limit the video's discoverability to appease to the same advertisers that can't sell their products due to the striking longshoremen who are striking against automation. That's enough to make my head spin, which is why I'm having a Pearlmanic episode. This week I attempted to buy formula at my local wholesale big box store. Now I say wholesale big box store because most people when you're writing a joke would just say Costco, but I wasn't actually at Costco. I went to BJ's.
We're Costco guys. What the heck is this thing?
But most people don't ever admit they go to BJ's, even though it's just fine. It's the same as all the other ones. It has a lot of similar stuff to Costco and Sam's Club, but people are just kind of embarrassed to say that we're a BJ's family. But I'm not. We're a BJ's family. So when I went to BJ's to attempt to buy formula, I was caught off guard by a damn near riot that was happening in the back of the store. I could hear fighting and tussling, and I went back there, and lo and behold, for the second time in 4 years, I saw middle-class suburban Americans fist fighting over cases of toilet paper. And you know what? At this point, it's beginning to feel like we're gonna have to add toilet paper hoarding to our usual 4-year calendar cycle. We get a leap day in February, we get the Summer Olympics in July, we get a presidential election in November, and somewhere in that same year, we're gonna beat the shit out of each other for toilet paper, and we're not gonna use that toilet paper for the poop. No, it's gonna be to mop up blood. The last time this happened was in 2020. Toilet paper hoarding became fashionable due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the series of associated lockdowns that shut down the entire economy. That includes the entire supply chain, which is paper mills, toilet paper factories, shipping logistics across the country and the world. And that made sense, right? No one was allowed to do anything, therefore no new toilet paper could be made for a few weeks, and the supply chain bottlenecked in a lot of different places. The economy tanked. We were all working from home, making sourdough bread, watching Tiger King, and pooping. We weren't going to the office to poop, so we were doubling the amount of toilet paper that we were using. It became scary for a lot of people. And since everything had stopped, people began to panic buy toilet paper. In many people's minds, they figured that they were buying enough of any specific item like toilet paper to last the entire pandemic, because in their minds, it was only going to be a couple weeks, maybe a month. And let's check in. When did that pandemic end? Let me see here. Oh, it's still going. And we're entering another spike because we're all back inside because the weather's getting colder. And now it's an endemic and we don't want to admit it. Weird. But hoarding like this has a knock-on effect, right? Hoarding leads to panic buying. Panic buying leads to price gouging, also known as inflation. Remember that word? You walk into a store, right? Any grocery store, and you see a man buying 100 packs of bacon while screaming, "Swine flu just killed all the pigs!" And you might suddenly believe that that pack of bacon in the case directly in front of you, that might be the last piece of bacon you'll ever see for the rest of your life. So even though you came to the grocery store to buy pre-chopped up lettuce mixed with carrots in a plastic container that is marked up about 75% over just buying lettuce and carrots and cutting them yourselves back home, you panic buy 2 packs of bacon. The person next to you, they see you buying 2 packs of bacon, go, "Why are you buying so much bacon?" "I heard about the swine flu." And before you know it, it's everywhere. This information Just the sales part of the information goes back to the grocery store's corporate headquarters. And there, a data analyst, more likely now an algorithm, will be reading over the sales and the buying habits of customers as it's gotten used to it. That algorithm or person, sometimes, but mostly algorithms, will start to realize that bacon can now sell at a higher price because they're selling out of every piece of bacon that is coming into the building because everyone is panic buying. Suddenly, bacon is up 50% over last week, much less last year, right? And before you know it, this grocery store has so much money just from bacon sales that they start buying up their other competitors and merging into one super grocery chain. And that super grocery chain has so much oversized pull in the market that this forces small farmers to sell their operations to larger corporations that merge together and turn into bacon cartels. And while this example was about swine flu and bacon, this actually happened with bird flu and eggs. Yeah, I tricked you. Yeah, this happened twice in like the last 15 years.
Eggs, when Kamala Harris took office, were short of $1.50 a dozen. Now a dozen eggs will cost you around $4 thanks to Kamala Harris's inflationary policy.
But this isn't about egg prices over the last 15 years. And this isn't about Kroger's and Albertsons and any other grocery store. No. This tale began today, and it's about grandmas using their walkers like Sandman in the ECW arena in 1997, smashing motherfuckers with a kendo stick, except instead of trying to win a championship and get more beers, they're just trying to get toilet paper. And not 4 years ago during COVID or the last year for basically no reason have these prices or this insanity gone up. No, why is there a run on toilet paper today? If you ask the corporate media, they will say that it's because of unions, specifically one union, the Longshoremen's Union, known as the International Longshoremen's Association, also known as the ILA. Starting on October 1st of 2024, the longshoremen all across the eastern seaboard of the United States, starting in Maine and running all down the East Coast all the way to Texas and across the Gulf, they walked off the job. And before we go any further, let me explain to you what a longshoreman is, okay? Because I feel like a lot of you haven't seen The Wire Season 2.
I don't need nothing more to do with you people. I don't need the trouble or the money. I got a union to run.
A longshoreman is a person who loads and unloads cargo from ships at a seaport. Back in the day, this would be sacks of goods over the shoulder, but today it's massive container ships with massive containers that are used to bring in huge quantities of goods from all over the world to America's shores. But also, things that are made here are also shipped out from America to the rest of the world. It's a vital part of our economy. So there are two sides to this strike. On one side, we have the ILA, the workers who move the goods, and on the other side, we have the U.S. Maritime Alliance, or USMX, a collection of European companies that own and operate Eastern and Gulf Coast seaports across the United States. Yes, that's right. This is American workers fighting against European aristocrats for better rights and conditions. European countries own American ports. Y'all, we are lucky that the longshoremen haven't found a shipping container full of tea, because that shit go right in the harbor, right? When they would be cosplaying as oppressed Native Americans, it'd get a crazy shit. Before you know it, we'd be out here screaming, what about the freedom? We're going to Lexington. Okay. Quick aside, the ILA has stated that their strike will not stop the export of American weapons. No, there has been a long-standing agreement that the ILA has had with the United States government and our military since World War I. So if you were thinking that this strike would be a way to get a de facto arms embargo for any of the ongoing biblical level conflicts that we have going in the world right now, well, I'm sorry. U.S. bombs are the essential workers of the NWO. 444 life.
The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
The NWO or life shirt. Get it? Sweet.
The USMX and the ILA are in the middle of a contract dispute. The workers are demanding two things. Number one, a larger wage increase, citing the fact that USMX profits are up 800% since the beginning of the pandemic, while ILA members' wages stayed relatively flat. Before the pandemic happened, the ILA and the USMX, they had contract negotiations that were set for about 6 years. And during that, ILA members were getting a $1 a year raise, starting at about $20 an hour. And now they're arguing for a higher yearly raise. The union has rightly pointed out that industry profits it topped out at about $400 billion over 3 years, while the average longshoreman got $1 more a year. That disparity is insane. And so as shipping rates soared around the world during and after the pandemic, while supply chains were trying to catch up, longshoremen were risking their lives in many different ways. One, from COVID itself, but two, due to the increased amount of work that they had to do and less people being brought onto the job. Also, the supply chains were going off the hook because we were trying to restock from shutdowns. The second thing the ILA is demanding in the contract negotiations is the same thing that actors and writer unions went on strike for in Hollywood this year, and other organizations have been screaming about: protections against automation, things like AI and things like automated systems. The American human beings that currently operate machinery to move shipping containers do not want to be replaced by machines by their European corporate overlords. Hey, quick update real fast before we keep going into this video. I'm about to talk about stuff that's still relevant, but I do want to give you an update about what just happened as I was recording about the specific strike that I've been talking about. The ILA, the International Longshoremen Association, and the United States Maritime Association have come together on a tentative deal. That tentative deal is going to extend the existing contract that they've had to January 15th to allow them to keep negotiating. The ILA has stated that they still, again, hope to raise the wages of their members while getting protections against automation. The USMX, they're going to try to stop as much of that as possible because that's how it works. Labor's going to try one thing, management's going to try another. However, there is a lot more I'm about to talk about with historical precedent and other things when dealing with labor rights and automation and other stuff that have really cool connections. So this isn't just about that. This isn't just about that. There's so many strings. Let's start pulling on them. And this is the part that messes me up, right? Because this is the area where I see worker solidarity fall apart over and over again. The threat of automation, this is not the first time. Or will it be the last time that managers, private equity, Wall Street, tech bros, and in this case, literal European nobles, have threatened to replace entire workforces with robots? In fact, it's where we get the word Luddite from. We're gonna take a history spin here. Let's take a spin. When I was a kid in school, I was taught that the word Luddite was somebody who violently hated technology. Think an Amish man with a religiously tax-exempt meth problem and a puppy mill. Sorry, that's just an accurate description of the Amish. But listen, Luddite does not equal a person who doesn't want technological progression. What the Luddite movement was versus what it was sold to us in our schools and in our cultural references are completely different. It was only recently that I found out that the Luddite movement was actually an organized labor strike of skilled textile workers going across the 18th and 19th centuries in England. It came to a head around 1811. And the Luddites, they were textile workers who were fighting against their wages being undercut by their new automated spinning machines and weaving machines that were being brought in by factory owners. These textile workers would point out that as they were being paid less, the factory owners were making more. They were making more per unit, and they were also selling more per unit. The wages of the workers were going down, while the rich were getting even richer. And anytime they stepped up and said, hey, we're skilled workers, we used to get paid $10 or whatever, however much British pounds are, a few more shillings, when they used to get that, suddenly they would just bring in people who had less skills, who would make a shoddier product that they could sell even more from by using these different weaving techniques. So what option did the skilled textile workers have? They tried a few different things, and at the end of the day, they decided to do what anyone with their right mind wants to. They raged against the machine. That's right. They went into the factories and they smashed the machines. They broke them up, and they said, there it is. Your machine can't walk away, but I can. And they ran in. Now, where'd they get the name Luddite from? That was actually a mythical figure. They made up this guy named Ned Ludd because they didn't want any one person to be blamed for this movement, hence the name Luddites. Government responded the way government always does, by only listening to the rich factory owners. So what'd they do? Parliament made, quote, machine breaking a capital crime. That's right, break a machine, we'll execute you. Industrial sabotage became a capital crime with the Frame Breaking Act of 1812. The government called out around 12,000 troops and constables, and eventually, after rounding up many members of the Luddites and anyone associated with them, people were hung, people were tried, and a lot of people were shipped off to a penal colony in a little place called Australia. No! Is that how they do it? No! In more recent history, there's been a fight to raise the federal minimum wage, right? As you guys know, the federal minimum wage right now across the United States is $7.25 an hour. There's been a fight for a long time to get that pushed up to $15 an hour. Now, in some states, it is $15 an hour. In some states, it's even higher than that. Here in Pennsylvania, where I live, though, it's fucking $7.25 a fucking hour. And it's been that way since 2009. Now, in this push, in this fight to raise minimum wage, this has also been halted, mocked repeatedly by assholes in comment sections, and also by industry, by management, and by tech bros and government people, politicians, conservative politicians. They've all mocked the idea of going up to $15 an hour because they've said, why would I pay someone who flips burgers? Why would I pay a cashier $15 an hour? This is minimum wage. This is a wage for high schoolers, even though these jobs happen directly during school hours. So you see a lot of comment sections in the fight for articles about $15 an hour, and people would comment, oh, if you don't want to have your job replaced by a kiosk at McDonald's, you better learn to code. That was a few years ago. Now people don't say that anymore because coding jobs have now been replaced by automation. The threat of AI itself has now come for coding jobs. Self-replicating AI is slowly writing code that can be used to replace people. Slowly, skilled work in skilled areas where people said for a long time they didn't need a union because they were being paid so well and treated so well is being replaced by AI. But in California, they recently passed a law that raised fast food workers' wages to $20 an hour. And that's right, $20 an hour, which is the same wage, mind you, that an ILA member, a longshoreman, it's currently the starting wage across the East Coast and the Gulf Coast of the United States. You can work at McDonald's for $20 an hour in California, or you could be a longshoreman in Texas. With that raise in California, no one's lost their jobs. Automation hasn't picked up to replace them. And in fact, the cost of fast food in California has stayed equal to the cost of the rest of the country. Mind you, the cost for food in the rest of the country has still gone up, but not everyone's wages. This was about toilet paper, though, to remind everybody. That's where we started. We started with toilet paper and just watching two people go blow for blow over some shit tickets. Listen, my point is this. Later this month or later this year, you're gonna hear somebody complain that the reason they couldn't find toilet paper was because of unions, and that isn't true. The biggest reason why could not be true due to the Longshoremen's Labor Union is I can already feel a few of you saying it because as I've been recording this, they reached a tentative deal and the strike has been called off till at least January 15th. But if there was a shortage for toilet paper, it would not be an issue at the ports because we don't import toilet paper through seaports in the United States. 90% of toilet paper is American made, baby. 90% of toilet paper is American made. And the 10% of that isn't is from Canada or Mexico. That's right. It's our hats and our boots. So that means trucks and trains, baby. No boats. It's American trees from American toilet paper factories that create American paper for American butts, all right? Tell your racist uncle to buy a bidet. And maybe when that water pressure gets up there, he might realize that it's his drinking that's the problem. And it's not the immigrants that are making things go up. And no, it's not the immigrants that are keeping your wages down. It's a series of algorithmic automations that have been set up by very rich people who are trying to make sure that you stay distracted as you line up to pay for more expensive things for even less wages. So for now, the ILA strike, the longshoreman strike, has been paused. And that's good. We're all excited about that. So in conclusion, management has always used technology to fuck us. They've always showed up and said that technology will make our lives easier, that it'll make us more comfortable, and then what do they do with that? They cut our wages and expect us to do the jobs of 7 people.
I'm a longshoreman for LA Long Beach. See that? There's nobody there. Automation. I work at an automated dock. Losing thousands of jobs. So you got all these machines. Look, there's no people. They ain't paying no taxes. They ain't paying no money. This is what ILA is fighting about. This all used to be filled with top handlers, UTR drivers, clerks, and there ain't hardly any people on this thing.
They've always gone out of their way to use technology to pay less and less people and keep more for themselves. That's how management works. So in conclusion, management has always used tech to fuck us. They always have. And they'll always claim it's to make things more convenient. But at the end of the day, it's just going to make a lot of us more poor and a lot of things more expensive and just out of our reach. So here's what you're going to do. Next time you hear somebody is screaming that you need to hoard toilet paper, buy a bidet. Get a bidet. Get that stream of water up there. You're going to find some things that have been stuck there for a long time, and you'll be much happier for that.
Let's just go in it.
After that, eat more vegetables. And then finally, make sure you're registered to vote. This has been a Pearlmanic episode. Make sure you like and subscribe, comment on any topics you want me to talk about in the future, and hopefully we can keep the ports open even longer. Like and subscribe.